Okay. All right. Let me expand this. Okay, so again, February 2025 Town Hall for United College Park. For those of you who haven't seen and understand what United College Park is, I'll flash this. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it. I really do want to get to the meat, but do know that our aim is to enhance transparency and accountability with our leadership. We try to make sure that to do that, we've got an educated citizenry and that we are absolutely engaged in all things in the body politic of College Park. Um, I offer these codes so you can decide to join us if you like to. I am going to ask that everybody here either go to the United College Park site to give your information, or you leave it with us in your chat. What we're looking for is your name and an email that we might reach you if you've got interest in helping out in any of our activities. The agenda for today, I want to talk just a second about last month. We had some action items from that. And then we're going to quickly jump into our special guests. One of them is Ryan Borasox, who will speak to us about the statewide homestead opt-out, which is critically important. The city will start a series of workshops on this as early as tomorrow. And many of us, including me, are very confused about what the implications are. We'll also, and Richard, I apologize for misspelling your name. We'll talk about Open Record Act challenges. We've had some changes here in College Park, some struggles as well. Richard is from the city of South Fulton and is a open records advocate. And then I think Grace is going to join us. Somebody may want to help try to get her here around charter improvements. And then we'll have some updates around some ongoing activities that we've got from a UCP perspective. Um, from a housekeeping perspective, I ask again that you provide your name and email in the chat or go to the UCP site and enter yourself. We ask that you also mute yourself if not speaking. And then we also ask that you save your questions for Q&A periods at the end of each session. Again, this meeting is being recorded and will be shared. All right. So real quick about last month. Last month we had,
Silestone engineered countertops.
okay, I'm gonna mute Millie. Okay. So last month we had um, the blessing of having our fire chief and one of his direct reports come to talk about emergency medical services in College Park and the ambulance system that serves us. Big news there was that College Park is not licensed to transport. So it leaves our EMC people in a pickle if they've got some situation that's not doesn't look like you're gonna die immediately. They've got to decide if they can, transport you, outside of the agreement or if they need to call an ambulance. And we all know the ambulance can be awful slow on this side of town. There was some action items around following up with the Region 3 emergency. Help me out here, Sherry. There was a group we were supposed to be communicating with through
We're,
email to encourage them to give us our license. Any follow up there?
yes, we're still composing the email addresses for that board, but we'll post them on our Facebook page as well as the email distribution list when we have it and encourage everyone to write emails to them directly in support of the proposal to give us our own transporting contract.
Yep. Okay. All right, so that was the action out of that one. Great meeting. And likewise today, I'm sure we'll have action items out of what we see today. I'm going to turn it over to Ryan.
Hold on
Again,
a second. I'm going to go get my charger.
okay. Was that Ryan speaking?
So please mute Aquila Light. I think that's who that was.
Okay. Got it.
Mute all the users except yourself and Ryan if you can.
I will. Okay. So Ryan, you still with us?
Yes, Randy, still here?
Yep, yep, I can hear you. Let's go ahead
Fantastic.
and jump right in.
Perfect. Well, thank you, Randy. Appreciate the invitation, Sherry. Thank you for setting this up and allowing me to be here with you all today. My name is Ryan Bowersox. I am the Assistant General Counsel for the Georgia Municipal Association. GMA is a nonprofit organization serving all 537 cities across the state. We provide resources to cities, one of which we do is advocacy under the Gold Dome, and then helping to implement and assist cities after a bill has been passed, a change in law has occurred. What I've been extremely busy with for about the better part of last year and this beginning part of this year is the implementation of House Bill 581 from last year and its companion constitutional amendment, HR 1022. Um, House Bill 581 was an extremely significant tax bill that passed last year, one of the most significant changes in local taxation that has occurred over a number of years now. Um, House Bill 581 has a number of procedural tax changes regarding the assessment notice, the appeal on your assessment, and then it also implemented a statewide homestead exemption, a floating statewide homestead exemption, and then created a new local option sales tax. So I was invited here today to talk briefly about the statewide floating homestead exemption that was created on a House Bill under House Bill 581. So starting off, House Bill 581, the new statewide floating homestead exemption was approved by voters in November. It was a constitutional amendment that allowed the legislature to implement House Bill 581. This was approved in the mid 60s in November, that this statewide floating homestead exemption would come into existence on January 1st of this year. What is unique about this, previously, homestead exemptions are done locally. They are done for the most part through a local act by the delegation. So the representatives and senators that represent a given jurisdiction, whether that be the county, the city, the school board, the representatives and senators that represent that area would pass a local act and would then send that to the voters of that jurisdiction to be approved in a referendum in the next election. House Bill 581 created one statewide that was modeled after a couple of jurisdictions that would essentially create a floating homestead exemption for that jurisdiction that would suppress the rise in homesteaded values for taxational purposes. So we've seen a number of jurisdictions implement freezes or floats of some kind on their homestead exemption that would control the growth of a homestead's value for taxation purposes. What 581 does is that for a homesteaded property, someone can select one property to be their homestead within the jurisdiction. It would create an exemption that would only allow the value of that property to rise at a rate of inflation annually, so that if the home's value rose more than the rate of inflation, it would be capped off at CPIU for that given year. Your home jumps up $20,000, $30,000 in value, it will only rise at whatever CPIU was for the previous year. Give that 2.5%, 3%, something along those lines. It would work to control that you would not see a rapid rate in your home's value, and thus a rapid raise in taxable amount. 581 had a provision that was extremely unique in the fact that because a number of jurisdictions had adopted these independently, traditionally these were done as a local option, 581 allowed the local governments not to opt in, but a chance to opt out of this homestead exemption if they so choose. With the bill coming online January 1, local governments by March 1st of this year are allowed the opportunity to advertise, hold meetings, and adopt a resolution that says affirmatively, we do not want this to apply to our jurisdiction. There is no need to opt in. There's no opt-in process. It is an affirmative opt-out by the local government if they so choose to do so. Um, like I said, they would need to advertise and hold 3 public hearings and then adopt a resolution and file that with the Secretary of State if they so choose to opt out of this homestead exemption for their jurisdiction. Little bit of our role within this process. I've been doing a lot of what I'm doing today is educational, of just trying to alert local governments of this option that they have, alert them what this homestead would do for their jurisdiction. We do not advocate one way or another, whether a city opts in, or whether a city hops out or stays in under 581, but we are attempting to just educate them and alert them of this change in law, and if they so choose to, the correct process of opting out. Um, a little bit about the impact of the 581 exemption. Over time, it will grow. It will be more impactful over the first couple of years. You won't see much of an impact on a homeowner's taxable liability or the revenue for the local government. Obviously, as home values grow, you'll start to see a little more of an impact. A notable thing, which is similar to all homestead exemptions, upon sale or improvement of the home, these will be taken into account. So if a home is sold to the next owner, it will reset to fair market value. Or if someone does a notable improvement, a significant improvement of the home, they add in, it's a deck, an in-law suite, a pool, something along those lines. Those will be taken into account on the fair market value. But as long as the homeowner remains in the home, the HB 581 exemption will work to slow the growth of the taxable value for that home. Um, with that, I hope that I've covered the 581 exemption. Like I said, there is a number of sales tax changes and also changes in the assessment and appeal process that are also associated with 581. I'm happy to jump into any of those if the questions do arise, but that is just a brief overview of the HB 581 homestead exemption and the choice that College Park is looking at this time. So, Randy, if I may, I'm happy to take any questions for a few minutes in that regard.
Hey, Ryan, thank you for the summary. And I'll reiterate, UCP is not in a position to advocate one way or the other either, right? This is an information gathering, and yeah, absolutely. We want to get people asking questions, right? So they can come to their own conclusion. So, all of you are on mute. If you have questions for Ryan, you can ask away, or you can even type them into the message box. Either way.
What, Jason Killip has his hand raised. If you could,
Okay.
Jason, to unmute so that you can ask your question.
Yeah. Hey, thanks, Sherry. I appreciate it. Ryan, I actually have 2 questions, and I'm trying to keep them unbiased because I know there's a lot of sway one way or another around this. But my first question was, my understanding is like if you're already an existing homeowner, that it's pretty advantageous to you to lock in this now because you're locking in at the current appraisal rates. And as we've seen in the last 4 or 5 years, appraisal rates can go up rapidly fast. But is the intention behind this bill to kind of handcuff the city so that they can't take those appraisal rates, and it's going to make them do more work around like millage and other kind of taxation announcements that have to go through different processes than just taking an appraisal rate?
Um, Jason, I'll see if I can answer the question in this regard. So if you are an existing homeowner, the homestead will be automatically applied. It will lock in the 2024 rate. Cities do not have a hand in assessment of values of homes. They only can control once they inevitably receive what the digest is valued at. The millage rate. It is the Board of Assessors for the county that actually will value the home, and so the city really doesn't have a hand in that. So
Perfect.
I don't know if that answers appropriately, but that's
No, 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 that makes a lot of sense. That the county actually controls when the assessments happen and the appraisals. Yeah, I'm fairly new to Georgia, so every municipality is a little different on that. So thank you for the clarification there.
100% happy to.
Hey, I think Rashard was next with a hand.
Yeah, I was seeing some information on social media that homeowners that are on the north side of Fulton County would benefit more from this program than homes that are on the south side. Can you speak to that? Is there any truth to that at all?
Yeah, I so a number of North Fulton cities have similar measures already in place that were done locally. I can say Roswell, Alpharetta, a number of those up there have those have these measures already in place. I think Sandy Springs does as well. Um, it what the measure will do from the homeowner's perspective, if homes are rising in value faster than the rate of inflation, it will control that growth. And so if the North Fulton homes are rising faster than South Fulton homes, the homeowners would see the greater value of this measure if their local governments choose to stay in and they do not have one already. It's not specific to an area by any means. It really depends on just the how quickly the home values, like market value of the homes, are rising in that area. Those homeowners will see the greater benefit from this exemption, as that for taxable purposes their value will be suppressed to some degree. So it really all just depends on a given area, how much the home values are rising quickly in that area.
Okay, and I think Ellen, you were next. Ellen, you're on mute. Okay. Hey, Ryan, the way that this sounds, it greatly
Okay,
benefits. Okay,
Randy, I figured out how to unmute myself.
okay,
Thank you.
go ahead.
Okay, so here's my question. I want to understand what would be the advantage to opting out, because I understand the advantage of just staying like it is. But what would be the advantage to a homeowner? I have 50 plus years in College Park, so I don't. I'm seeing my home value grow really, really fast, and my taxes along with it. So, what would be the advantage to opting out of this suppression of the tax, suppressing this growth for
Sure,
a
sure.
homeowner?
Yeah, I understand. And again, this is a policy decision for the local governing authority that we don't weigh in on. But what 581 will do will slow the growth of the homesteaded portion of the digest. If the expenses of the local government outweigh the that growth, would if you are continuing your budget to have to go up of paying policemen, paying firefighters, paying public works along those lines, your choice at that point will be the other end of the equation of the millage rate will have to increase if that so occurs. This is a shifting of the burden of the taxpayer from those that are homesteaded to the businesses and those that are renting and things along those lines. That is the potential of the exemption that does exist. Not necessarily within a couple years, but as long as 581 does exist, there is a chance down the road that the millage rate will have to be increased if the suppression on the homesteaded part of the digest occurs. Um, that is a policy decision that local governments have to weigh in. A number of local governments have done this on their own. A number have chosen not to do this. We have heard from business owners in other cities that have voiced opposition to this measure along those lines. But like I said, it's a weighing of a policy decision for the local government to make. It is very homeowner friendly, 100%. I will not dispute that. But that if the expenses of the local government do continue to rise, that weighs that potential implication there. So,
Okay. Hey, we got a couple of
So,
questions coming in on the
can
chat.
I get clarification on that one? I just want to make
sure.
sure I understand. Opting in protects the rise of value and my taxation on it. Opting out means that most of the any money that burden is no longer on the homeowner. That burden now shifts to business and investments. Is that correct?
Uh, yes, ma'am, to some degree. Not necessarily, but there is the potential of that if the expenses of the local government continue to need to be funded in a certain regard and they outpace what the rise in the digest exists, there is a burden shift on ad valorem tax potentially. So yes.
Hey, we're gonna take maybe two more
Okay.
questions on this.
Thank you.
We got at least two in the chat. I'm gonna start with Tom's, and I heard this question before, but maybe you can help us understand what would be the impact on the county school portion of the tax.
Sure. So the 581 choice, the opt-out choice is independent of other levying jurisdictions, so that the city, the county, and the school board can all independently make the decision whether or not to opt out or to stay in on the 581 exemption. There are some ramifications on the sales tax portion to some degree, and College Park's a little unique in that scenario. But for the most part, uh, the levying jurisdictions, the county, the city, the school board, all make that decision for themselves of whether their levy will be impacted by House Bill 551. It does not impact the other levying jurisdictions, the choice that College Park makes.
Okay. Um, there is there. I see people commenting about the two. We have two sessions, public hearing sessions tomorrow at 6 and 7:30. It looks like. That sounds a little sketchy, but did somebody have a question they're trying to ask about that?
No, I think they're just seeking clarification. There are two public hearings tomorrow, one at 6 and one at 7:30, and the third one is on 2/28. So you have one opportunity tomorrow at an hour and a half apart, and another opportunity next week.
Yeah,
Okay.
that was me, Randy, because they announced they say have to have three, but I've only seen 2 dates announced, so I was really confused, as should be.
Okay.
So
All right.
county schools opt out. How does that impact when schools, if Fulton County schools opt out and then say, for instance, College Park opts out? How does that impact the funding distribution for the schools? That's a concern for our area. It's one of the reasons that's being advertised that our council is opting out.
So that's going to be for the school board. That's going to be a little bit more of a unique situation, whether or not they choose to opt out. I know there is some potential on the funding that the Georgia Association of School Boards is actually looking to bring some legislation change this year that would help address the implication that if a school board did opt out, the funding that they would receive. So we do expect some change in that regard, potentially, but I do understand that is a concern for the school board specifically.
Yeah, but what we just heard was those those decisions are independent of each other, and they're two different funding authorities that get to make that decision. There, so all the talk about local and its impact on schools is really perhaps overblown. All right. Hey, Ryan, Thank you so much. We're going to move on to another topic. You are welcome to stick around and participate. We loved having you. And is there maybe you can add an email if somebody has a follow-up question, they can reach you.
I'm happy to throw my my email in the chat briefly here, and I've got some family in town, so I'm going to scoot here and spend some time. But it's good to be with you all, and appreciate the invitation being here. So
All
Thank you
right.
so much,
Thank you
Ryan.
much.
A lot of things pulling on your time. This is a busy time of year for you, so we really appreciate your taking time out to be with us this afternoon.
yes, ma'am, I appreciate that. Thank you.
All
Bye.
right. Okay, let me get back to the agenda. Can y'all see this? Are we sharing? No share.
Not yet. We're all looking at ourselves, at our names.
Okay, let me try one more time. How about now? Nope. Yep,
Now,
you see it.
yes.
Okay, so again, some of you came in later. We did a little recap from last month about the emergency medical system. Of course, Ryan just covered the statewide homestead exemption. We are going to turn now to talk about Open Records Act challenges. We've got Richard, not Rickard Snelling, that'll speak here, and then you see the rest of the show here. So. Uh, Richard, you wanna crank up, man? Maybe give us some background on your experience there in South Fulton.
Yeah.
And okay.
All right, so my name was actually Richard.
Ah,
So yeah, so I've lived in South Fulton since before the city was established back in 2017. I moved here in 2016. I began doing open records requests because I'm not sure if you're familiar with the Cascade Road corridor, but where Cascade Road intersects with Fulton Industrial, we had a bridge there, and the city shut down the bridge. It was closed for about 3 years. So I wanted to know why the bridge was taking so long. So I was hearing these rumors that the city didn't have the funding, things of that nature. So I started doing open records requests, and I got the information that I was looking for. They eventually opened the bridge back up. Fast forward to about 2022. The mayor for the city of South Fulton, he put some information out that four members of our city council they took money out of their budgets and they were giving it to the former mayor to send out these campaign style booklets. So I did an open records request with that. The city blocked my request to get that information. And I was hearing things. I was hearing things in the council meeting that I just wanted to confirm. The city would not give me the documentation that I was asking for. So the mayor knew that we were having these issues with open records. So he reached out to the Georgia Municipal Association. He had the Georgia Municipal Association come to one of our work sessions and give a refresher training course to the city council and to the city at large on the Georgia Open Records Act. When he tried to do that, the city council restricted him from being able to do the presentation. And Georgia Municipal Association was there at the meeting, and they told them, "Sorry that you came all the way over here, but we cannot let you do this presentation." So I reached out to GMA. GMA would not do the presentation for a citizen-led group. So they referred us to the Georgia First Amendment Foundation. So the Georgia First Amendment Foundation did a training where they trained the residents on how to do open records requests, what the city was allowed to do, what they were not allowed to do, and they let us know that if we are not getting the information that we're requesting from the city, that we need to go to the Attorney General. So I went to the Attorney General. I submitted about 10 complaints to the Attorney General's office. The Attorney General told me that all they do is establish a dialogue between the residents and the city, and that's it. They don't enforce the Open Records Act. They said that our district attorney, she has to enforce the Open Records Act. So I went to the district attorney's office. And in the anti-corruption unit, they told me that they won't be enforcing it. That is on the attorney general. So I felt like I was getting a runaround. So I went back to the mayor and I said, "Hey, I went through all these channels and I still cannot get any help getting my records fulfilled. What recommendations do you have for me?" And then he said, "Well, at this point, you're going to have to sue the city." So that was what I did. I went and filed a lawsuit pro se. I represented myself against the city initially, but then the Georgia First Amendment Foundation reached out to me. They wanted me to talk to one of their attorneys, which I did. Her name is Joy Ransing. She ended up taking over the case, and we went to court. The judge ordered us into mediation, and we were able to resolve the case in mediation. When we went through mediation, the city agreed to do certain things, like they agreed to hold a public town hall where they would train the residents on the Georgia Open Records Act. They had until May 31st to conduct that town hall meeting. That meeting actually did not happen until sometime in the middle of July, right? They were supposed to also hold a internal training to train all of their employees. We later found out that that training never happened. They also agreed to reimburse my attorney for all her attorney's fees. They did do that. So because the employees, we have proof that the employees were not trained, and because I felt that they violated the judge's court order, we are back in litigation again to enforce the terms of the judge's initial court order. Now, since I had to file this action, the city has done a better job with how they respond to open records requests. In addition to not fulfilling the request, we were seeing things like exorbitant fees. So I know everybody hears all the news going on with the mayor right now with his city issued credit card. That has been an issue for years with the city of South Fulton. We've been asking for these credit card statements for the city manager, for the city council, for everybody. And when we were asking for these items, we were getting $2,000 invoices to get these credit card statements. When I requested them and I received that invoice, I went to the media. The media ran a story on it a couple of years ago. The mayor saw the story, and then he emailed me all of the statements for all of the city council. And when we looked at those statements, we were seeing lawn care charges. We were seeing tuition charges, paying for someone to go to college at a for-profit university. We were just seeing a lot of things that we did not think should be on city-issued credit cards. So a group of residents, we went to Fonnie Willis's office, to the anti-corruption unit, and we sat with them for hours, and they said that they were going to do something about it. 2 years later, nothing still has been done. So we're at where we're at now with the mayor's credit card. So that was also all uncovered through open records.
Man, okay.
Can we just clap? Oh my gosh. That's you have a persistence that is so worthy of a civil servant. I feel like you used to be a civil servant.
Thank you. So we're just trying to get to the bottom of things with the excessive spending. The focus is on the mayor right now, but the focus really needs to be on more than just the mayor. This is a across the board issue. So
Richard, was the fees, did when you started this process, was there a set fee, and did you see that escalate over time?
No, they did not have any set fees. So the way the fee structure is supposed to work, they're supposed to take the hourly rate of the lowest paid employee that's qualified to obtain the record, and whatever is supposed to cost, the number of hours that they think it'll take, that's what the fee is supposed to be. And that was another issue with the lawsuit. So they had to post their fee structure on the website, which they did do. So, and they have been doing a fairly decent job in complying with that. Now, what started this quest about the credit cards recently was we heard this rumor that the city council was going to be they have a retreat twice a year. And usually they take the retreat to Lake Lanier or Lake Oconee or somewhere like that. So this year there was a proposal to have this retreat in Rwanda in Africa.
Oh my
right?
God.
Yeah, so I have a feeling that the mayor proposed this, but I just wanted to be sure. So I did an open records request to the city, and I asked them for copies of all the emails between mayor and council and the city clerk regarding any retreats that were happening outside the United States. The city came back with a $2,700 invoice, and I sent the city's attorney an email and said, hey, we just got out of litigation for this. I would hate to have to bring the city back into litigation for this again because this seems intentional. So at that point, the city attorney reached out to me and said, can you clarify what you're asking for? And I said, I will restate what I'm asking for. So when I restated it, they sent me all the emails, and I was able to see that the mayor did propose that we have this retreat in Rwanda, but 5 of the 7 city council members said no, and two of them just didn't respond to it. So the retreat ended up taking place in at Lake Lanier again. But the city usually spends about $50,000 for each one of these retreats. And when I was reading the emails from the mayor, that was why he proposed it to go to Africa, because if we're going to spend $50,000 to go to Lake Lanier, we could spend $50,000 to go to Africa. That was what his thinking on it was, but that would have been open meetings violations because there was no way a resident can go to Rwanda and sit through a week-long retreat. So a lot of residents felt that there will be some open meetings violations with that as well.
Man, I take my hat off to you guys. It sounds like it's been a real journey.
Yes, it has. Now
I feel like it's hold my beer. Our cities and our city councils are saying hold my beer to each other. Hey, College Park here. Hey, South Fulton here.
Yes. So I actually came to one of y'all meetings, and I did see a lot of the same problems that y'all have. We have those same problems as well. So we just got to do a good job of working with our neighboring communities and stick to each other, stick together. So,
Well, I appreciate you coming, man. And I want to open the floor for any questions, any clarifications that anybody in the crowd might have. And you guys are all on mute, by the way.
So I guess one quick question, as far as tips on making sure that your request is sufficiently narrow and focused so that you don't get these exorbitant bills being charged. Do you have any tips on that?
Yeah, so try to narrow it as much as possible. So what I had to do to get the mayor's credit card statement, if I would have asked for mayor and council's credit card statement, I would have got an invoice. So we have 7 council members, a city manager, and the mayor. So I had to submit 9 different open records requests, and I just had to list them out by name. And so if you're going to ask for a credit card statement, I was told to ask for, the Attorney General's office told me to ask for a transaction history, not a credit card statement, because if you ask for a credit card statement, someone's going to have to go and pull it, then they're going to have to print it, then it's going to have to go to the attorney. The attorney is going to have to redact the account number off of it. So with all of that, you will be incurring redaction charges. You'll be incurring all kinds of stuff. So that's the advice that I was given. And
Yeah,
just I'm sorry.
No, you're good. Let me add some context. I didn't do a good job of setting this up. So here in College Park, recently, we've gone from no charge to what I feel are pretty absorbent charges. Um, and we've even seen people get bills for things that have already been delivered 4 or 5 months ago. And for those on the phone that don't know about it, again, these are new charges. It's an obvious ploy, it seems, to slow down the request for open records. And so we're in much the same situation that you find yourself in South Fulton.
Yeah, and I start posting the invoices on Nextdoor. And when I did that, they start sending me the documents. So that helped as well. Nextdoor has been very helpful. The media has been very helpful. And my attorney, I saw someone put her contact information in the chat. Joy Ramsing, she was very instrumental to helping us get to the bottom of a lot of this.
I did not have her contact information, but I did wanted to note her name.
Okay, I'll post her contact information in the chat.
That would be awesome. Thank you.
No problem.
Richard, I was just curious. I mean, I love that you posted it on Nextdoor, but one of the things that I think is so great about United College Park is our website is actually a repository for a lot of these open records and different information that we're finding. We can post it and it's public and the press can look at it. It's gathered in one place. Do you have like a United South Fulton?
No, that's something that I was actually thinking about doing. So yeah, that's something that we definitely need to do. So I'm gonna take a look at your website, and if it's okay, I'll reach out to you guys and if we have any questions on that. But that is a great idea as well.
And ideally, because unfortunately, South Atlanta cities are having the same experience with their local government, that let's not duplicate efforts.
No.
We can grow the repository that's already started. And to your point, Richard, to come together and work together as South Atlanta.
I appreciate it. I will definitely take you up on that.
All right. Any other questions for Rashad? Okay.
Yes, this is Dr. Chisulo. Rashad.
Yes, sir.
What approach would be helpful for the council and mayor? Or is the approach that you've taken helpful to the council and mayor? As you know, and what I said, I'm aware that these are new positions that people are holding. This is a new place of authority and power that we have not held and had before. How are you helping them with understanding the authority and power and using it in a more effective way?
So our city council and our mayor, they have been adverse to the public telling them about what they should be doing. And they like to tell us they go to training sponsored by GMA, they go to training in Washington, D.C., and they get all the training that they need. So they have been pretty adverse to us telling them that. So much so that we can't even go to public. So let's say we have a council meeting next Tuesday, right? So let's say I want to go to the council meeting and I want to give them an idea for how they can limit these credit card issues. I'm not allowed to do that because they have restrictions on public comments where you can only talk about what they place on the agenda. So those are some of the challenges that's a huge challenge that we have in South Fulton. So if enough residents go to a council meeting about a particular issue, then what they'll do is they'll take a public vote to consider suspending the rules for public comment, right? And so they'll sit there and they'll argue for a half hour about whether they should suspend the rules or not to let somebody talk for 2 minutes. So that's what we're dealing with right now. So after I'm out of litigation with them with this case, I'm gonna have my attorney look into it to see if there's anything we can do about these restrictions on public comments.
All right. Any other questions for Rashad? All right, Brother
And I just
Rashad.
want to say one more thing. I saw
Sure.
on your agenda where there's a discussion on the battery plant. I would encourage you guys to do open records to South Fulton also, because South Fulton, I believe, is involved with that whole thing with the battery plant as well.
Yes.
So,
All right. You guys let me know if I'm sharing the agenda again. I can't tell. Okay. Excellent.
Yeah.
All right. And again, thank you so much, Rashard. Please leave all your contact information in the chat.
it's
We
in the
look.
chat. I'll put my attorney's information in there as well.
Okay. Grace, we're so pleased to have you here today. I know we've been trying to get you involved for a while. Um, and and obviously the small chatter is having an impact on city council who will be making a some motion this upcoming week to let you know they have no interest whatsoever in changes to the charter, right? So maybe you can talk to us about, where this is coming from, kind of the mechanics behind it, some of the needs that, we have in our charter or missing from our charter.
Sure, sure. And I'll ask Elizabeth Lester to chime in because we've had a couple of conversations. She's done the detailed work of kind of really looking at some of the other charters that are comparable to ours too. But just, first of all, like a little bit of history. When I moved here in 2017, one of the first porch parties that, we were walking by and someone was like, "We're having a porch party. Come on in. You've got a baby. How cute." Like that first conversation talked about the needs for the charter to be changed. And that was in 2017. And like I'm pretty sure this is something that's gone on for a while. And also in that first conversation that was had with me, they also said, "Oh, but our council will never ever do that. They'll never consider it. They'll never make changes. They'll never do anything because it inhibits their power." I If you know me, you probably know that I don't really care much about power. I think it's really pretty dumb too on a city level because we are so small, and we see each other and we should work together and we should be taking care of each other. And for as much as everybody wants to tout acting justly and loving mercy and walking humbly, it just does not really happen here in this town. So, I had even, you know, in talks with our councilwoman prior to her election, one of the big things I said, well, you would win my vote if you would be really interested in going after this charter, and really doing a review, a conscientious review with a third party to really look at it and see how this makes sense or doesn't make sense. Because I personally also don't think it's very fair that you can hold a seat on our council for less than 100 votes. I do not find that representative of our city. Our voting districts, Ward 1, 2, 3, and 4, are not really very equal as far as voting goes. So there are ways that can be altered. One of them would be to bring at-large members in, or even I know the vice mayor concept has been bantied about as a little bit of a joke, but honestly, it's a thing in other cities too that works kind of as an at-large member as well. And then we wouldn't have to have a mayor pro tem do-si-do. But it's just, something to consider and something to think of. And again, none of this is an action to come in and take power away. It is to spread the work, to bring more voice to our, huge budget. We have a huge fiscal responsibility in this part of the state and greater Atlanta metro. And the fact that major multi-million-dollar decisions affecting millions of people can be done with 2 votes, just 2 votes, I don't think is okay. And so this has been why I have come repeatedly before council to ask them to bring a group of citizens and independent professionals to review the charter. And that has been ignored. It has been, oh, that's a great idea. We should think about that. And then nothing has happened. No action, no action. So at some point, I was fed up enough to say, all right, United College Park people, let's talk to the higher authorities. Because also at that very first porch party, when someone said, oh, the council will never do it, someone also said, well, unless the Georgia legislature made them do it. And I never really understood what that meant until this past year, when last January, just the floodgates of craziness and a lot of 2 votes, because people wouldn't know what was happening and they would abstain or walk out of the room, and it just was too much. So I've been reaching out along with other people to the Georgia legislature, and it looks like Nancy. I'm sorry, I always get it. It's Nancy Halpern, right? Yes. Sonia, sorry. I went to school with Halperns, and so I keep getting that first name confused. Is leading the charge. And there's a lot of people up there who feel a little bit like College Park, it's enough is enough. And you're not working for your citizens, you're working against them. So council apparently has no interest in working with us, so much so that they are now making a resolution to freeze the charter. And also they are making a resolution and again, this is to my kind of vague understanding. I briefly read through it on Friday, and I've had 6 sick children over the weekend, so it's been a little distracting. But also that they are giving themselves permission to do whatever needs to be done to stop the effort, which I'm pretty certain equates to giving themselves unlimited permission to pay lawyers and lobbyists to fight against the Georgia legislature, who basically want them to work with us.
So a couple of things there. They are paying lobbyists. They have at least 4, with at least 3 of those being focused on Georgia and 1 of those federal. And they're getting about $36,000 a month right now. So that's, a lot of money that is being paid to basically fight against a grassroots initiative by the community. There are actually 3 different ways that the charter can be amended. Only the state legislatures can actually change the structure of our city government. And that's important because the council has effectively already tried to do that by reapportioning power between the mayor and the council. So in addition to the legislative effort, there is also the council can also vote to change the charter again, but it can't be as to the structure itself. So adding or new at-large members or changing the structure of things like that isn't something that they can do themselves. And then there is a third way, which we are exploring how to do. The third way is by citizen effort. And so we can go through a process. I think it's 20% of the registered voters in the city would have to sign on to the petition. We would have 60 days to get the signatures. And then we would take that before the city clerk, and they would have to certify that. And then we would get to vote on it. So citizen referendum, which if it doesn't go through the state legislature, is going to be our option. And we're fully prepared. I've been working on initial drafts of what our wish list would be. I did a comparison of the charters of every municipality in Fulton County, which was super fun. Got down into the nitty-gritty, and it's really interesting. So all of these, this was everybody but the city of Atlanta, which is kind of its own beast. Every single city, except for the city of Fairburn, included veto rights for the mayor. They all also included provisions where the council could override that, usually with a supermajority or a unanimous, depending on the size of it. But the fact that every other municipality includes that, I think, is a great check on the council's power. There were some other provisions in a lot of these that were common. It's specified as to who appointed the city manager and who appointed the city attorney and who appointed the city clerk, as well as information as to who makes the agenda and things that were ratified and who had those powers. But most importantly, almost every other city had a specific provision prohibiting legislative interference with the management of the day-to-day city. And while it is implicit in ours based on the distribution of power, there is nothing that is express. We also have a challenge that the rules that the employees are held to is a different standard than our council members. So if our employees make a complaint to the head of HR or the city attorney or city manager that they are being harassed by a council member, they are basically told, I'm sorry, there's nothing that we can do because they are not held. They are not subject to these rules. So, and the other issue is that employees can't even file ethics complaints. You have to be a resident. So only if you are a resident and an employee would you be eligible to file a complaint. And our ethics board isn't even, well, they're changing it now, but historically it's gone to one hearing officer, and then the council has the option to follow the recommendations and the rulings, but they really don't have to. There's nothing holding them to that. So if a hearing officer were to find that there were violations of the code of ethics by council members or other city officials, there's no recourse, basically, which is kind of a big problem. So a lot of what we're looking at are looking at those types of issues and providing protections to employees in particular, providing a code of ethics that actually has some teeth.
Hey,
And
Elizabeth,
yep.
have you done any, it sounds like great research, and I know a lot of work went into it. The question is, how do you have you marketed that, right? So, and it's a lot to digest, but maybe individual elements of that, need to get distributed so people can understand it, one by one.
Yeah, so we have a spreadsheet that shows the comparison, and we can share that. I have both a quick summary as well as a more detailed comparison of the city charters, and so we can make that information available. I'm hoping to make something a little bit more digestible with some of the different suggestions as well. But we also have been communicating with the state legislative delegation, letting them know the different ideas that we have as to what would be beneficial.
Okay. I'm going to open the floor real quick for any questions that people may have. Um, we still got like probably another 10 minutes worth of material, so let's see if we can expedite through this. But if there are any questions now, please ask away.
Randy, one point that I wanted to add and to point folks to our former councilman Ambrose Clay. His website, clayOnCouncil.com, provides an update before the council meeting, things to note for agenda items, and he has some commentary on the proposed resolution that will be discussed tomorrow. And one important thing that he underscored in his comments is the council is they are adamant about no changes being made when you consider the ambiguities in our current charter now. It's just left up for the council to interpret and not have clarity from our legislature, which is something that revision amendment would do. And why wouldn't council want that? Why leave the ambiguity? So I would encourage everyone to go to clayOnCouncil.com and look at Mr. Clay's feedback and comments.
Yep, and glad to have Ambrose here today as well. Any other questions or statements around this?
Yeah, I got a question. This is Mose. I just wanted to know, and either Elizabeth or Grace could take this. If I could take one thing to my neighbor who doesn't pay any attention to none of this stuff and say, this is one reason that the charter needs to change tomorrow, what would you all say? What would you suggest that I say to them where I could make it just real plain and simple for them?
I think there's two things that I would focus on, and one would be there's very little protection for employees from elected officials. And so that's a big problem. We've lost a lot of really good employees over the past 13 months because of that. The other piece is that there is also no meaningful check on the city council themselves. And that the fact that two people can vote to pass something and the others abstain and not even take a position is a big problem. They shouldn't be abstaining unless there's a conflict of interest. And so that needs to change.
Yeah. I mean, I think the invincibility that they have, completely stated from the bench is not okay. And that's what I would say. Akila wants to say something.
Yeah, I
Hey,
had a
Akila.
question. Hi. Do you all think it will be helpful since we understand that they have lobbyists that are lobbying? Would it be helpful as citizens, we pick days that we can go lobby to speak to as a citizen of College Park why we feel that this is important and how they are literally using taxpayer money and all of these things to work against us?
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I would encourage you, we will circulate this information as well. We have all of the emails for the legislature. Lobby to them. Tell them directly that this is needed. We've been doing that. And the more people in their inboxes saying the same thing is influential.
Well,
But
I want to
also,
direct this to Elizabeth to find out because I've lobbied in person for the PTA or for, different industries. So I think it's different when you are there in their face speaking to each one of them versus emails. So I just wanted to know if there's any planning or conversations specifically about in-person lobbying.
We haven't planned it yet, but I think it's an excellent idea. And I think
we're all here right now. I'll tell you, I'm going to go down there February 19th is one of their open Press the Flesh days.
Okay.
And so I'm going to be down there, frankly, lobbying for midwives and their protections in this state. And I will absolutely be mentioning that I am from College Park and putting that, our interests forward as well.
Are there days that you guys could share? Because I just don't. Usually when I do something, it's organized by a group, so I don't know. Because I know there's like PTA day at the Capitol, or there are days where you can go. So if it's not an organized effort, I think maybe it's helpful for us to know, or at least me, when those days are so that I can plan for something like that.
Yeah, we can definitely pull information together and put it out there so that everybody knows. And then what we may want to do is if there's a group that's interested in going collectively, we can certainly look into trying to coordinate that.
Yeah, because it's powerful.
Email.
Yeah, let's take an action on that one and let's make sure. Akila, do we have your contact information? Did you share it with us today?
Yes, sir.
All right, excellent. All right, I'm going to move us on. We are slightly behind schedule. James, are you with us?
I am.
Okay,
Can you hear me?
yep, give me 1 second. I'm gonna pull just real quick. I want to pull the agenda up so, you can set some expectations here. Um, Let me know when you can see it.
I'm actually in the car, Randy, coming from
The agenda's up. I can see it.
Okay, excellent. So James, what we're looking for, um,
okay.
team James is, he's really him and Elizabeth and a couple of others are really running kind of the legal engine behind UCP, and for many of the activities we choose to get involved with. Um, there's a legal component, right? So I'm gonna ask James to give a quick update on Bill Evans, the battery plant, and the recall.
Okay. So as far as Bill Evans is concerned, I'm sure many of you have probably heard, unfortunately, that we have, I guess, lost the initial battle. Um, the council, through the arm of BIDA, their influence of BIDA, their surrogates on BIDA, have passed a resolution where they give Creed Acquisition an infinite amount of time to clear up any title defects, to clear up anything that they see wrong with Bill Evans' property. And I say infinite, I mean infinite. It could take 20, 30, 40 years, which, just put a pin in that, is completely unheard of in real estate contracts, in the real estate realm together. That is unheard of. But moreover, they have also agreed to pay all of Creed's legal fees, all of Creed's title clearance fees, all of Creed's whatever Creed has expended, right, on their due diligence and correction of any defects of Bill Evans Field. We have agreed through them to pay for it out of our tax dollars. Now, let me just bring that to light. Title curative work on any kind of residential property, tens and tens of thousands of dollars. Title curative work on commercial property can literally go into the six figures, not to mention the legal fees that can go into the six figures, not to mention the infinite amount of time that they have to do it. So you hire an attorney of your choosing to take as long as they want to have a checkbook or a black card with an unlimited balance equals unfettered access and completely no checks and balances on anything as it relates to Bill Evans Field. If you think about that, that is unconscionable. That is a travesty. That is a complete dereliction of their duties, their fiduciary duty. There is a complete dereliction of their oath of office. You can go down the list. It is just unconscionable. But this is what they have done. So right now,
how much he actually knows about business if he thinks that he can
I'm
go
gonna
in to any system
Dorothy.
unilaterally
Keep going, James. I'm gonna find
employees
Dorothy and mute
and
her.
not have a plan
oh,
for
okay,
someone
okay.
to continue to do the
I can't.
functions
Okay,
of those
can you
people
mute?
you've removed.
I'm
You've got a
trying to get
Okay,
to her now.
security at risk. You've got a health
okay,
system at risk. You've got a farm.
Got it.
okay. Yeah. So that right now is where Bill Evans Field stands. So we have uh, basically no plan other than to wait and see what Creed wants to do and what H.J. Russell wants to do. Now, my suggestion is, knowing H.J. Russell and their brand, and knowing Jerome and Stefan Gresham, they do not like bad publicity. They do not like bad press. So I say we take this fight right to their doorstep, and we have coverage, and we put this out there. Yeah, I know we made the resolution. We as a city, it looks bad, but when people see this, that is going to put light on them and make it look like they are completely taking advantage of us here in College Park. That's the only thing that I can think that we can plausibly do to put pressure on him to just leave it alone, leave us alone, go find somewhere else to build your quote unquote, air quotes, luxury affordable apartments or whatever. But that's where Bill Evansfield stands. I know we
Okay.
have a lot of questions on that probably. So I don't know if you want me to move to the next topic, Randy, I
Tell,
can, or
tell,
if you can.
tell you what, let's take one or two there. Any questions for James on the baseball field? Okay. Let's move on to the
Randy,
battery plant. I'm sorry, who was that?
hey Randy, it's Brad. I got a question.
Yeah.
I know there's folks here who have read through the documents from the group purchasing the field. What exactly is supposed to be built? Does the resolution and the purchase documents even state what's actually going to be built? Because I've heard a lot of different things thrown around.
Uh, to my knowledge, it doesn't really state. We know it's luxury apartments or work use housing, single family housing for, I believe it's for elderly. Um, I think elderly residents, I'm not sure, but that's what we've heard. But it doesn't necessarily say that in the actual contract. It's just a purchase sale agreement for the land. So they could, I mean, quite honestly, they could change it up. They could switch it up.
Okay. Any other questions? All right, let's move on to the battery plant and recall.
Well, let's go to the recall first, man. I'm not really too much uh sure where we are with the battery plant. We were going to talk about that. But as far as the recall is concerned, guys, we are in phase 2 of the recall and didn't really know we were going to have a phase 2 like this, but there has been a date tentative set for May, and I just got word that that may change, where we are going to have an evidentiary hearing as to the allegations that we have made against Councilman McKenzie. I think it's good that we're having this. However, I think it could have been consolidated and it could have been done in a more expeditious manner than this. What this does do, and I'm not a fan of right now, is that it really gives Jeremy and his crew another blank check. Right now, they have spent a total of 100. Well, their bills, their invoices have come up to approximately $122,000-$23,000 for 3 months of work, 4 months of work. We are essentially paying for Jamel to keep her seat. And I think that is completely ridiculous. It is ridiculous. Uh,
Hey, James, let me clarify something. So you mentioned Jeremy. Jeremy is the attorney that is working with the councilwoman, right?
more expensive than what he's already billed the city. And they basically have a blank check. So much of a blank check that when I had a call with her attorney last week, we were on the phone and I expressed to him my displeasure and dissatisfaction of him just charging us uh, all willy-nilly. I said it's not personal, but really, you don't have to have 3 attorneys on this one call with me, where all 3 of y'all bill five, six, $700 an hour. I said it's ridiculous. So I'm not gonna stay on this call but 15 minutes because I'm gonna say what I gotta say, and then I'm gonna get off the phone. And I told him that I thought it was in his best interest to try and consolidate these upcoming discovery requests that he had, because we as a community are going to discuss this and we are not happy with what is going on. Now, I know it's not your fault. we have a council that has really opened up the vault to you and said, just go in and take what you want to take. But I'm trying to save us some money while at the same time, be prudent and do what we need to do to make sure she is recalled. Now, that leads me to another issue, fundraising. It is going to take money. Now, Elizabeth and I and Sherry and a few others are doing this out of the love of our hearts and completely pro bono for our community. To find out that what we have done is worth on the market $120,000, $130,000, it's good, but we don't have it. So I'm saying that to say there are hard costs, court reporters, transcripts, there are other costs associated with just taking this to the next level, right? And I think they know that, and they're just trying to bleed us, right? Not knowing that we are completely doing this for the love of College Park. And I do mean the love of College Park because it takes up half of my life, half of Elizabeth's life, and half of Sherry's life, and Tom as well. So we have got to get some kind of fundraising going on to where we can facilitate what needs to happen in the next 3 to 4 months. But can somebody please mute that person?
The next level.
Can somebody please mute that person? Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, what they're doing. But so that's where we are. We will be doing depositions of Councilwoman McKenzie and a few others of our choosing, and we will see where we are with that. But we have another hearing coming up later, early summer or midsummer, and that's the recall. Mm-hmm.
All right, thank you, James. Elizabeth, can you give some insight on battery plant? I know there's a need for fundraising there as well.
Yep.
I think Sherry probably knows that more than me.
She had to step away. She's in class, I believe. So we'll get an update. But James, I'm gonna move us along, and I'm actually gonna talk about fundraising. Give me 1 second. All right, let me know when that share pops up.
I can see the agenda.
Okay, so the call to action after all of this, right, is, we've been able to do tremendous things, with at least slowing down the battery plant. Obviously James's work around the recall, he just kind of expressed that. There was work around Bill Evans. What we need to do is develop a fundraising strategy, right? That keeps us in the game. And I fully recognize that there are different populations on the phone. Some of them are, Bill Evans is dear and near to a lot of people's hearts. Battery plant as well. Some people are completely, they don't want to see recall. They'd rather wait till, we have an election, and I respect all of that. What we need to do is to find ways to fundraise appropriately for all of them, right? So we'll be driving this out, but what I'm interested in is helping to set up a finance/fundraising committee, right? So looking for folks who can put a guiding hand on this, who are creative in this space. There's a lot of people who are interested in participating in several of these different ventures, maybe not all. So we need to make sure that we're holding those funds in areas that are unique to each one of the causes. But if you have any interest whatsoever in joining or even leading this fundraising committee, please don't hesitate to step up. We've got plenty of room for others who want to help. All right. I'm open to
Randy,
yes, sir.
I'm sorry. Can I mention one more thing about the recall? I hear the same things that, well, let's just wait till the election and let's wait till, 2.5, 3 years from now. But in seeing what we're seeing this council doing every month, every 4 weeks, every 2 weeks, we can ill afford to wait any longer to get these people out of their seats. My fear is that if we wait much longer, we will not be able to, it will take us a generation to undo some of the things that they are doing. And they have dire consequences. I mean, from the battery plant to not only Bill Evans Field, but with Six West and with all the other things that they want to do in the name of whatever. I can go on, but there are people on this call that I really don't want to take and turn my words. But we can ill afford to wait any longer. So this is a 911 call to action, to let our state reps know, to let our community know that we've got to get involved. It takes more than just, because they always say it's just a few of y'all. It's just a few of y'all. No, it's really more. But we need the more to come up and raise their voices as well. Okay.
Absolutely. Thank you, James. Um, Speaking of next steps, right? So one thing that I failed to put on the agenda today um, was for the elections, right? In excuse me, in 2 and 4. Um, in the last session, we did have some conversation about, you know, at least making sure that candidates um, understood the process, right? That we provided some facilitation around that, that we helped to stand up candidates. I think there are other organizations in the city who are doing much the same thing. So we'll look for opportunities to cross pollinate there. Um, so anyway, that's all I have today. Is there any other subject that anyone would like to breach before we close out today?
Well, I have just a quick reply on the fundraising. Um, do you have any measures of like a goal that we're trying to get at or where we stand at the moment? I mean, how many subscribing members do we have contributing monthly? Like, do we have sustaining memberships? Like, what
So,
is
so there's been a rumor that there are deep coffers with United College Park because it's exclusive and people pay lots of money to get in. But the truth is, there is no membership fee, right? So there's no subscription. What we've been able to do is been out of the goodness of a few people's hearts. And they're obviously people are willing and they have stood up for specific causes. We can keep going back to those wells, but I think there are lots more to tap into. Um, so Grace, I'm going to write you down as somebody who might be interested in joining this fundraising committee because it sounds like you got an idea.
I'll give you a laugh on that one.
All right. Any other
Thank
questions?
Mhm.
Okay. And again, if you have not, please take a moment to give your email and name in the chat. You can also follow the link per the URL code here to get to United College Park, where you can also register for emails. You can express your interests, whatever that interest might be. And again, we look forward to working with you. And and again, thank you so much. You guys make a wonderful day.
Thanks, everybody.
Okay, take care.